Welcome to Seize Your Mind, the podcast about soccer, mental toughness, and life. I'm your host, Brandon Stone, and today we have with us Mitch Sowerby, head coach of Mid-America Christian University. Mitch also was assistant coach for Rogers State for 3 years, where he also played his college ball. Before that, he played in Newcastle, England. Please welcome Mitch Sowerby. Mitch Sowerby, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Mitch, tell me about yourself. I've known you for, about 6 years, I'd say.
I think it's a little bit longer, actually.
Is it longer?
I think if you remember, I was there when you first did your kind of first
my first talk.
Motivational, your motivational talk about yourself in 2012. So it's coming up on 8 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yep.
So
yeah, you've been there ever since I came here.
Yeah, we're in 2020 now. It's 8 years. Crazy. Tell the audience where you're from and how you got to where you are now.
So originally from England. So I grew up playing soccer, football back there all my life, and then made the decision in 2012, like we just said, to come out to America to play. I think I was originally supposed to go to Incarnate Word in Texas, and then ended up talking to Coach Larkin, who's just been on the podcast recently, about coming to Rogers State, and kind of liked what he had to say, liked the vision and the goals set, and I knew the school was moving into the NCAA, liked the facilities, so ended up coming to Rogers State to play. Played all 4 years here at Rogers State, and then lucky and fortunate enough, I guess, to get straight into the coaching realm, again at Rogers State as an assistant coach. And then recently just moved to Mid-America Christian NAIA school in the Sooner Athletic Conference, and that's where I'm coaching right now as a head coach on the men's side.
Perfect. And you had a fantastic first season, did you not?
It was good. We set some high goals and we accomplished them. I think it's fair to say, if you asked anyone on our team, we probably didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve realistically, but it was still an unbelievable, unforgettable year and broke many records throughout the season. And honestly, it was an unbelievable experience for a first-year head coach.
No doubt. We'll get in more in that later, but I want to rewind and go back to the beginning of what it was like playing soccer in England for you. What was it like when you first fell in love with the game?
So I was obviously really young when I first started playing, and I think back in England, football, soccer, we call it soccer, is the only sport really, most prominent sport there. So kind of grew up in it, going to watch games every weekend, professional live games, and then could be playing on a Saturday morning and then going straight to watch a game Saturday evening, a 3 p.m. kickoff. So in and around it and involved in it all my life growing up. Back then, there was a team called Heartland United. They were in the 3rd division in League One as it was, and they were pushing for playoffs to get into the Championship, which is an unbelievable league right now. And when I was around 15, 16, I played for them for a couple of years, and that was I was at kind of a peak in my career, my youth, of what I thought, and then obviously didn't manage to get signed on professionally into that. Since then, Hartlepool's kind of dropped down into a lot lower leagues. And then after that, I decided I wanted to kind of continue playing, but wanted to get an education as well. So I was obviously looking at universities in England and playing kind of what we call Sunday league soccer, where you can kind of get paid for it, or coming out to America. Ultimately chose coming to America, but in and around it, grew up in it. Everything in my life was it. After school, playing football. During school, playing football. Everything just revolved around football, and it's unbelievable. And when you're in England or in Europe, I guess it's kind of what American football is here. It's everything to everyone. So growing up in it was amazing.
I always consider, at least in Brazil, and I'm sure it's the same in England, I always consider it as being if you were to put football basketball and baseball into one sport.
That's
the size of the sport in
that's
England.
a good analogy of it. It's a good analogy for sure.
Tell me about your first moment with that club at 15, your first official game.
So I remember I actually went to the club actually put a cover camp on, which is kind of like a skills camp. And that was a team back then that I supported. I went to their games. My stepdad he was from there, so I had a season ticket. So kind of when that camp came available, I went on it, and I was never expecting that they'd bring me into their academy. So I first got the invite for a 6-week trial. So they bring you in for 6 weeks. You go through practices and through games, and I just remember getting there and kind of feeling a little bit taken back that I was actually playing for the team that I actually supported and loved at the time. And then actually getting to step out on the field and just in them colours and play for them is just, there's not a feeling like it really. And then obviously, like I said, ultimately it wasn't meant to be. And a year or so down the line, they didn't keep me on, and I understand it. There's very, very few people that get it, but it kind of motivated and pushed me just to get to where I am now.
Did you have a favorite game or favorite moment from that team?
I think honestly the favorite moment, there was some great games we played against local teams. We played against teams like Sunderland and like some friendly matches who at the time were kind of Premiership, Championship area. But I think for me the favorite moment honestly was just the first time I actually arrived at the training ground for the first training session. Just kind of because I felt like I'd done something special that not a lot of people had done. So kind of walking out onto the training for the first time, and actually it was probably the first time I'd been coached by what would be considered a professional coach, someone with licenses and such. So just kind of that surreal feeling of first walking out onto the training field and thinking, wow, I've got here. I need to try and stay here.
It puts you in a whole nother tier, huh?
Yeah, and honestly, when I got there and I was playing, and obviously I was a little bit older then, so looking around, and some of the players there were on another level altogether, and some of the players on the team were playing with the older teams, the under 18s, and they were U15. So, I mean, it just shows you that there's another level altogether, and that was for a League One side. So I can't imagine what it was being like for a Premiership Academy team player in that level. So it just shows you that I was on a new step, but there's another step above that as well.
So you're always looking forward.
Yeah, and I think whenever you do anything in life, whenever you accomplish something, I think there's always another ceiling you can break. And once you break it and get into it, then you've got to set new goals and aim and reach for a little bit higher. So I think there's always things like that you can be doing, and I don't think there's a limit of where you can go, what you can do, and what you can achieve.
Beautiful. Well said. What made you choose Roger? I know you said you talked to Larkin to get to Rogers State, but like, what was that process of? You said you almost went to this other school. What was that process of choosing schools, like deciding to come to America as opposed to staying in England?
So I think the first one was obviously the decision to come to America. Obviously for me at the time, it was a big decision. Nobody kind of from my area had made that decision to come across to the States, although I think it's becoming more popular now. So that was kind of a challenge. And I remember it was actually probably my mom that kind of pushed me and was like, it can change your life. You go experience something. Area I'm from is probably not the best, and kind of fall into the same patterns and same routines as a lot of other people around you, which I don't think are really equipped for getting you very far in life. So that was kind of why I made the decision to come to America. And then obviously in the process, you talk to a lot of different schools. Some schools have a lot of interest, some don't. And then I remember kind of getting it down to one school, and then Rogers State came in a little bit later. And I just remember speaking to Larkin and just kind of felt a little bit comfortable with him and with the decision of coming here. And sometimes you don't know what path you're going to go on. And I think sometimes God might have a path for you to follow. So I just kind of took the leap of faith and said, there's a reason this is happening, and it's turned out pretty good so far.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was the right choice. So then you get to Rogers State. What was that adapting to life in the U.S.? What was the biggest challenge for you being away from home?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge, and I think it would have been a challenge even if I went to university in England, is just kind of living on your own and having to figure things out for yourself. I think you kind of definitely take that step into becoming an adult and becoming more mature about things. And then obviously when you come across seas, as far as you do, if something goes wrong or something's not right, you can't just go home. Like, you can't just go, well, let me go drive an hour and I'm back home. It's kind of, you have to figure it out and you have to make it work. And I think adapting, that was probably the hardest part of it, is just kind of doing life on my own, making all new friends. I didn't come across with anyone I knew. So you're making all new friends, you're in a new lifestyle, a new area, trying to figure it out. So that was probably the hardest thing. But for me personally, I'm pretty easy going, so it didn't take long to adjust. And obviously I was in a room with some people who have become long friends since then, so that definitely helps. But yeah.
So in a sense, you kind of burned the boats when you came over here. There is no looking back.
Exactly. There's nothing. I know there's a few people that come over from across seas and they don't last, and it's just a little bit too much for them and they're homesick because there's so many differences. But I think the majority of people that do come across from overseas, I think they tend to last and stick it out. But yeah, it's sink or survive, really.
What advice would you give to, let's say, a freshman who just got to the States from England, for him to thrive quicker?
I think I would give this bit of advice to not just freshmen from across seas, but also freshmen from America as well, because I think even American local kids going to college for the first time can be a challenge, because they're used to getting a lot of things. They're used to being, hey, I need something, and they get it straight away. But obviously when you go to college, you're kind of by yourself. So I think the more you can just be open and receptive, and kind of the more you can communicate with others, I think that's probably one of the biggest advice. Whether something's hard in your life and you need some help through something, or whether you're just trying to communicate to make friends, I think the more you can put yourself out there and kind of integrate yourself into what's happening, I think the easier you'll find it. Because the more friends you have, or the more people that you can talk to, I think they can help it, because sometimes people go through the same struggles as you. If you're a freshman from high school in America and you're going to a school 4 states away, then you're no different than a player coming from Brazil. I mean, you're both away from home. You both might have homesickness, troubles, struggles, or just someone to share good ideas with. So I think the more you can be outgoing, communicate, and integrate yourself within the squad, within the school as well. Sometimes it doesn't have to be just in the soccer. It can be in the school. If there's activities going on, you can find a lot of people on campus through just on-campus events, which I know a lot of schools do a good job of doing that. So I think that's really important.
So soccer players I know I was in that age. We want to do everything ourselves. We want to figure it out by ourselves. We don't like asking for help. And I think it's, for me at least, it was my ego. I didn't want to appear weak, and asking for help made, in my mind, in my naive mind at the time, it made me appear as weak. But I think the way you put it, it makes it a lot more pretty to look at it that way, attractive. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think even from out of college, possibly into like jobs, into marriage, adulthood, I still think a lot of men kind of struggle to ask for help and struggle to talk about things anywhere, just because they want to be seen as kind of the manly figure, and they don't want to say like they need anything, or they don't need anything from anyone. So I think if you can kind of get to grips with that in college, and you're not afraid to ask for help, you're not afraid to show some vulnerability, I think it's going to carry you a long way.
Good. Favorite moment in sports at RSU?
Oof. Wow.
As a player, and then we'll get into as an assistant coach.
As a player, well, I think there's a lot of moments. I know I heard heard Larkin on your podcast recently talking about playing for the moment, and that hasn't changed from what he said from the moment I walked through the door to right now. He still calls me and tells me just keep playing for the moment. I think at RSU there was a lot of moments that made it special, and some of the best moments I had at RSU weren't really to do with the soccer at all. It was because we were on a away trip somewhere. I mean, played and we've been to Colorado as a team, and we went to Dallas Cowboys Stadium and toured that as a team. So there's a lot of special moments in there. I'd say playing wise, one of the best moments we had is, I don't remember if I was a player or a coach actually, when we beat St. Ed's 2-1 in overtime. It was 1-1. They were ranked at the time. I think they were ranked number 3 in the country. But when you asked me that question, that moment stood out. Whether I was a player or a coach, just I remember that. I remember the feeling. We all wanted to win. We all wanted to beat them to prove ourselves, and it happened.
Yeah, that was huge. I was there. It was a special moment.
Yep.
So how did you go from being a player at RSU to a coach, assistant coach?
I think the first year was definitely more of a challenge than the other years, just since I knew quite a lot of the players. There was an older class, so I kind of knew a lot of the players in the senior class. So the first year was definitely a challenge. I think my senior year in playing, I kind of transitioned myself out anyway, in terms of I was starting to prepare for life after college, and wasn't focused so much of college, and I've got 1 year left, and what should we do in college? I was more focused on, okay, after this year, I'm in the real world. What do I want to do? What are my goals? What do I want to start accomplishing? So I'd kind of started putting myself on that pedestal anyway. And I think from my freshman year, I was kind of made somewhat of a leader in terms of being around the captains and understanding the program, the school a little bit more. And then from there on out, I was kind of a captain of the team. So I definitely had a good sense and understanding of the players at the time. So when I got into coaching as the assistant coach, I knew the players, they respected me, I respected them, every single one of them. So that helped. And like I said, I transitioned out of my senior year, starting to get ready. So I wasn't really around them as much in a social setting as I probably could have been in my senior year. But I think I had different kind of ambitions and goals at that time. So that helped me. And then obviously after the first year being an assistant coach, a new wave of players came in. It was a big senior class my first year. So a new wave of players come in that I'd helped recruit to. So then it kind of got easier from there on out, and I'd got more comfortable with being a coach and understanding it and how Rogers State operates off the field, because we can all see what it's like on the field. So that was kind of how I adjusted, and took a little bit of time.
Interesting. So when you say off the field, you're talking about the mechanics of being a coach.
Yeah,
and all
there's a lot
the
of
behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into being a college coach than just coaching on the field. And I remember Coach Larkin specifically telling me that when I wanted to get into coaching at the college level, and then seeing it, there's just so much. I mean, there's from dealing with the people in the administrations offices, to the international advisors, to the recruiting, to the budgeting, booking hotels, when you're traveling, meals, everything. There's so much to it. The actual coaching piece and on the field, just a small, minute part, but that's the part we probably all enjoy the most, and that's probably why we do the job, to get that small 5-10% of the actual coaching that comes with the job.
Wow, you don't really think about that as a player. You don't really see that aspect, so that's interesting. And tell me about the process of getting your first head coach job and what that felt like for you.
Yeah, so I'd been coaching as an assistant for, I think it was around 3 years. So it was all quite quick, relatively quick actually, how this all happened. But I'd been looking at a few different jobs like you do, not really kind of taking a dive into any of them, or not really wanting to kind of step out of there. I felt like it was out of my comfort zone a little bit. But again, Coach Larkin was like, I think you're ready. You could definitely do it. If something came up, you'd be successful. You'd be fine. And then this job came up at Mid-America Christian in Oklahoma City. Surprisingly, I actually knew the school because my first year at Rogers State, we were an NAIA school and played in the Student Athletic Conference, so we played against them. And then the next 3 years, we became a Division 2 school. So I knew the school. The two coaches at the time were Evan Drezel and Zach Bice, kind of co-coaching the men and the women. Zach Bice took another job as an athletic director at the high school, and Evan Drezel took the women's job. So it opened a men's job, and the AD said they wanted to make the split of the programs. And I actually knew Zach and Evan and Mid-America Christian, so I think that helped make the process a little bit easier. Well, it definitely helped me get my foot in the door and get into the interviews with the AD and the president and the committee. And obviously, Larkin put a good word in for me. So I think all of them pieces helped me get my foot in the door. And then the interview came and they felt like I was a good fit. And I remember the AD at the time saying, we're not looking for someone with the biggest and best resume. We're looking for the person that we feel like is the right fit. And I think there is a difference. And obviously, an athletic director taking a chance on a young coach for the first time is a bit of a gamble. So hopefully he thinks it paid off. But it was a quick process, really. It all happened quickly. I think even from the time I started being an assistant coach at Rogers State, but I think I put my time in and I worked as hard as I could, kept my head down, knew what I wanted, went after it, kept learning, kept asking people questions, going on courses, and then managed to get it. And honestly, it was a nerve-wracking feeling when they offered me the job, because I thought, this is it. What if we never win a game? What if we lose every game and then I'm not made out for this? So nerve-wracking, but definitely grateful and blessed and happy that I got it and jumped into it.
That's great. That's great. One of the questions I asked you several years ago when you're at Rogers State was, what advice would you give someone who is just starting out in college? And your answer was this was in terms of coaching. Your answer was to start earlier, because I think you didn't start actually coaching. You started while you're still playing as a player, but you told me I would have started even earlier and get into it quicker.
Yeah. So in a coaching aspect of it, I think definitely starting earlier would be more beneficial. I kind of started in my junior year when I was playing, but it was all volunteer. I actually met a guy and he asked me to come out and help with his team. So I went out kind of a couple of times a month just to get involved, start helping out.
What team?
And then it was called NEOFC, Northeast Oklahoma Football Club, in Owasso, so it was local. So I put some time in for free volunteering, and then got in my senior year and it kind of picked up a little bit more, and I made it a little bit more serious, but still volunteering out there, trying to just do as much as I could, as often as I could, but obviously didn't want to make too many commitments at the time because school and playing came first, because that's what I was there to do. And then during that senior year, I started on my licenses. If I could go back, I would definitely start it all a little bit earlier, get on my licenses a little bit quicker, just so I can learn more and know more and have more experiences from the coaching side. Because I think once you get into coaching, you see the game and you see training and players in a different light than you did when you were a player. And it definitely, if I was to go back and play tomorrow, it definitely would make me a better player.
Interesting. What is it like getting the coaches' licenses and that process? Is it hard, or is it just you got to put in the time? Tell me about that aspect of it. And what license do you currently have now?
So I just recently, just last year, passed my B license. So the next one I'll be going for is the A. But you've got a little bit of time before you can go. You can't just hop license on license like right after each other. You've got to kind of spend some time putting into practice what you've got. I find the licenses beneficial. I enjoy them. I think they're set up and designed now, not so much to pass or failure or to tell you this is how you coach. I think there's more of an understanding that every situation, every team is all different. There's so much that goes into a team. I mean, every player is unique and individual within the team, so it's got to be coached a specific way to what's best for the player, what's best for the team, what's best for everyone. So they're equipped to do that. There's a lot more emphasis on kind of what it is to be a team, how to lead a team, how to manage a team. And then obviously there is emphasis on how to coach. You can't just be an awful coach. You can't just go shouting at everyone. But I kind of enjoy the holistic approach that's put into it, and kind of everything that goes into it. And there's some little pieces that you pick up on the courses that change the way I've coached 100%. There's some pieces on the course that I've kind of gone, not so sure about that, but definitely open to it. But definitely gets you thinking and seeing in a new light, and it kind of hits home that there's, again, like playing, there's another level of coaching you can get to.
Very interesting. Tell me more about the first season you had as a head coach. What were some of the challenges you had? How did you overcome those? And
yeah, so I think the first and obvious challenge was walking into a team that you have no idea. Obviously, got the job in summer, early summer. So walking into a team that you don't know any of the players, you haven't recruited any of the players. You kind of just showing up, and what you've got is what you've got, and showing up and knowing that the team was good, but they could have been better. Knowing that the team had a good culture, and thinking, how can we build on it? And you don't want to go in and rock the boat and everyone want to leave, but you also want to go in and make sure people get on board with what you want to do and how you want to move the team forward. So I think the biggest challenge was just not knowing anyone, and knowing that, hey, when pre-season hits, that's the first time we're going to really get everyone together, and everyone's going to understand us and trust us and know what we're saying is true. Obviously, through the summer, we had phone calls with all the players, kind of introduced ourselves and spoke about them, just try to get to know them a little bit more. But obviously, until you're really around people or you spend time with people, I don't think you can necessarily build trust. And I think without trust, players are less likely to do what you ask of them, or they're going to think, well, why should I come in fit? Because last year it was this and this happened, but he's telling me something different for this year. So I think until they can come in and see it and know you and trust you, I think that's always going to be a challenge to overcome. And luckily for us, we had a great group of players, like really a great group of players come back, and they adapted quick. They liked everything we wanted to implement. They were on board. Everybody had the same goal, and it was definitely a big team feel. There was very few individuals on the team, and I think that helped drive us to be successful.
How did you sprinkle in fun into the training?
So our training sessions. So that's a good question. We have a couple of sessions where they're solely just fun sessions, where it's like small-sided games, or it's games of horseshoes, but we make it competitive, where we'll play horseshoes and the winners will move up and the losers will move down. So we'll naturally see who the best are and who the worst are that day is. So we do have sessions like that where it's fun. But our team, I think their mentality and how they operate on a little bit of a different level. I think they're more of natural winners. They want to win. They know what it is to win. So our sessions that we put on were intense. They were short. They were to the point. They were with a purpose. And the players actually found that they were a lot more enjoyable, the sessions like that, because it wasn't coming out saying, we're going to play this small-sided possession with direction for 5 minutes, and it went 15, 20 minutes and players got bored. It was, if we said it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes, so get after it. But everything we do in practice is competition, whether it's adding up points to get an overall winner at the end, if it's a number of completion passes, whatever it is. And our players just thrive off the competition, and that competition is the fun for them. And to be honest, it's fun for me and the other coaches watching them, and sometimes we get involved and we compete with them. But then there is the days where it's just, you know what, this is nothing to do with what we need to accomplish, but let's have a little fun day because we've been working hard. We kind of need some recovery and some rest, but we'll still make it fun and compete. But I think pretty much every session we had, I think the players will tell you they enjoyed it. It was fun, it was intense, and there was a meaning and a point behind it.
Did you do any out of the box thinking in terms of like team building exercises? Nothing to do with soccer?
So I don't know if they were necessarily team building, but we did some team activities. So when we came in, we only had a week of pre-season, so it was really hard to get things in. And when you're a new coach in a team and you've got new ideas and ways that you want things to do, there's a lot of things you've got to change, remold, restructure. So we spent a lot of time probably on the field, probably a little bit more than we would have liked to on the field in pre-season. But I mean, our team activities were just things like we had a big team cookout where me and the other coaches were going to cook, and then it turned out that 4 or 5 of our players actually said they could do it better, so they took over and they did all the grilling and things like that. And for us, we go to church together. So just small activities we do together where it's not soccer related is kind of what helped us through that. Obviously, looking forward to next season, we're going to have a longer pre-season, so hopefully we can get some team activities, some team bonding slotted in there as well.
What is the biggest thing that, in terms of culture, that you've tried to add to the team in your first year and now second season?
Yeah, so like I said, I think the culture of the program was good. I think they'd already won a little bit. They knew what it was like to win. They were together. They were a close group. I think when we came in, we wanted to create a culture that kind of made people competitive, made it a safe environment for people, so people could say what they felt needed to be said. But really a culture where, you know what, if you're a player and you can't play tomorrow and you go into the workforce, are you going to be successful in the workforce? Are you going to be successful as a husband? So a lot of the cultures we have were just small things like being on time, having good body language, having a good work ethic, being accountable, and being respectful, just things like that. Things that a lot of people can easily say, and it's easier said than done. But you know what, when there's a meeting and you show up, if the meeting's at 12 and you show up at 12, then that's not on time for us, that's late for us. And I'm a big believer of whatever you do off the field, it'll translate on the field. So if you're taking care of business and doing what you need to in the classroom, in your social life, in your health, I think it's going to play a huge role of what you do on the field. So kind of just creating that culture and implementing it. But then the hardest part's obviously holding players accountable to that. But we definitely did it, and I think it was a huge reason for the season we had.
That's great. How do you develop leaders within your team?
So this is something that we actually want to try and do a little bit better of and a little bit more of next year. I think some people within the team just have leadership qualities that others kind of don't have or struggle to have, whether that's through kind of life experiences, whether that's been through previously being leaders, whatever it is. But for us to kind of help develop these men into leaders, we do a lot of individual meetings with players. We do some smaller group meetings, and during the meetings we just kind of allow them to say what they need to say, what we feel like, what we see, so we can talk it out and kind of get them to understand. I think one thing you got to understand about our team this year, I think we're in a little bit unique situation. I think I would say 80% of our team was over the age of 20. We had a lot of junior college transfers in, so we had a lot of players on the team that had kind of matured out of the freshman stages of college, if you would say, or kind of matured through the I'm here for a good time and I don't have responsibilities. So it was easier to manage our team, and we had the players kind of led themselves easier than I've seen previously. But then I know some of our players are actually kind of seeking leadership themselves and reading leadership books and wanting to be better leaders. And I think for me, one of the biggest things, and I preached about this to the assistant coaches as well, is the players are going to be good leaders if we can be good leaders. I think what they see from us, how we act, what we do, is the biggest lesson that they can learn. So we kind of talk about one of our core values in our team is servant leadership. So we talk about kind of doing things for other people, and what good would it be if we talk about it, but I'm sitting there and doing nothing. So I'm always kind of one of the first people to get out there and do things and help. And if a player turns around and says, "Coach, can you help me with this?" Yeah, absolutely, I will. And I think just being that kind of role model and kind of us as a staff sticking true to what we are telling the players, and we're doing it first, I think that definitely helps. So, you know what, if there's laundry to be done and I've got to do it, then I'll get on and do it, or the assistant coaches will do it. We're okay with it because we want our players to see that we're committed and involved just as much as they are.
So leading by example, and nothing is below you in terms of like.
Absolutely.
Has there been any players who you've helped last season or at RSU that you helped develop their confidence as a player, and how did you do that?
I think there's a lot of players at MACU now that would probably, I think, hopefully they would say that we helped their confidence tremendously. One player that stands out in particular was the NCCAA Player of the Year All-American. He'd been at school, Stephen Nganja, Stephen Mbai goes by. He'd been at school previously, and he's a phenomenal centre mid, holding mid attacker mid, just engine lungs for days, good technical on the ball. His school previously, his coach had him playing as a left wing back, and he kind of didn't understand why and didn't know why and didn't really fit the way the school was trying to play. And we got him in, and we only had 1 year under us, and I wish he had a few more years. But he kind of progressed from the start of being a little bit unconfident, kind of not really expressing himself or showing what he was capable, to the end of the year just again being one of our better players, and obviously winning that award's a huge recognition. And he'll tell you, and he told us through the year, he's like, this is the best year I've had. I feel confident. I feel like I'm free. And for us, we talk about the players playing with freedom, playing with a smile on their face, because ultimately when I was a kid, when you were a kid, we played because it was fun. You play for the love of the game. So yeah, we're in college and we want to win, and we kind of have to win. But if we're not having fun doing it, and we're not enjoying what we're doing, if we're not enjoying the way we play or how we play or understanding it, I think that freedom can cause tension and can cause players to go in the shell a little bit and lack confidence. And I think for us, we played a style of football that I think some coaches might try to play, some coaches won't play for fear of giving up goals or losing the ball, but we like to possess and build out from the back. And we tell our players all the time, like, if you make a mistake, I mean, it's okay. It's whatever you do after the mistake that counts. So I think kind of players having that trust in us to understand that, I think that gave a lot of our players confidence, and I know it helped Stephen a lot in particular.
So basically not punishing someone if they make a mistake and eliminating that fear of making mistakes.
Yeah. And I mean, even in life, I think even kids, I mean, even through, even me now still, we're all going to make mistakes. It's impossible to not make a mistake. I think the telling factor is what you do after that mistake. Do you make the same mistake again? If you do, why? How would you fix it? What's your reaction like? So in a game of soccer, I mean, I don't care if you give the ball away, but what upsets me is if you give it away and stand still and just watch someone. If you're going to lose the ball, just work back and win it in terms of soccer. And it's not about that mistake. And yeah, you know what? There's a mistake that might happen and we might get scored on. But you know what? If we can learn from it and we can get better, then that's what we're ultimately here to do. And in life, if you make a mistake but you can learn from it and get better, then you've just made your life a little bit better, and you've made the life of those around you a little bit better, because you're not going to make a mistake again.
Now, you as a player at RSU never made a mistake, did you?
I made a lot of mistakes. I could tell you a few mistakes I made.
Tell me about one of your mistake moments and then how you learned from that. Do you remember a specific one?
I've got a specific game I remember, and I think Larkin remembers it very well. And I think all of the players will remember it. We're away at Lubbock Christian, and we're losing the game by a goal. And at halftime, me and one of the players really got into it with each other because I felt like he wasn't trying, and we got into each other. And second half came out, and he stepped up, and his name's Danko Kendrick. He had probably the second half of his life and smashed in 2 goals, and he was on fire. And I remember we went with 2-1 up, and then we get a corner, and I stayed back, and the ball's cleared out, and the forward's running at me. I'm the last man on the halfway line, and the ball's bounced, and I've thought to myself, I'll just clip the ball over the forward's head, and I'll just run around him. And I slipped over. The forward ran in, took the ball, scored 2-2. We get another corner, and then I stayed back again because it's 2-2. We just kind of wanted to kind of see it out for a little bit, no risks. Balls come out again. I've gone to take a touch, fell over the ball. Forwards got it, ran on and scored, and we're losing 3-2. And we lost 3-2 that game. And I think two huge mistakes, but definitely two areas that I learned of. And I mean, that's specifically soccer in a game. But I'll never forget that, making them two big mistakes and costing it. Literally, the game was cost because of me.
How did you deal with that, and how did your teammates get over it eventually? What was that like?
I mean, luckily for us, we had a really good team. The boys were really close at the time, and I think I don't think they could quite believe what I'd done as much as I couldn't believe what I'd done. And I think they knew that I was going to be harder on myself than they were going to be on me. So they kind of just left me alone and let me be at it. And then for myself, I just kind of knew I'd made a mistake and I thought about it. But you know what? In college, you've got a day off and you've got a game again on the road. So I couldn't dwell on it too much. And I just thought the next game, I'm not going to make any mistakes and I'm going to just be better than I was. And then I believe the next game was probably one of the better games I had in my career. And we ended up winning the next game. And I think that was all forgotten about after that.
I love it. Let's talk about goal setting. You said at the beginning of the season, your team this season set some goals. What were those goals you set? Did you set just a team goal, just one goal? Like, tell me about how you implemented goal setting in your team.
Yeah, so I think ultimately our ultimate goal was to win the NAIA national tournament. That was kind of the be all and end all. That was the goal of all goals. And I think then we looked back from there and said, okay, what short-term goals can we set that's going to help us achieve that? The first big goal to get to a national tournament is obviously to qualify for the national tournament. So that was kind of another goal. We said, okay, we're going to qualify. Well, then we looked back at a smaller scale of how do we qualify for it. There's two routes to qualify. One route is automatic bid, where your non-conference is being good, your conference games have been good, but you didn't win the conference tournament. And then the second one was to win the conference tournament. So within that goal, we had two more goals. And then for us, we also had like small little milestones in the coaching staff, not the players, but so that we had goals like these for the players and for us. And then in a coaching staff, we have kind of milestones. So the first 4 games, we wanted to make sure we had at least 3 wins. We felt 3 wins out of the first 4 was perfect because we were playing on the road. We were playing number 17 Arizona Christian. We thought if we can beat them, we're good. Another game in Arizona, and then we played Sterling, who at the time were 3-0 and had beat Bellevue, who were ranked top 15. So we accomplished that. We're obviously 4-0, and then we re-established new goals. Okay, what's our next milestone? What's our next goal we want to achieve? And I think for us, and even for me, I think I set goals and break it down to every single day. Every day there's a goal. What do I want to achieve? Why do I need to achieve it? And then the planning and the strategy of, okay, how are we going to do that? What do we need? Because obviously winning a national tournament there's one team in the NAIA out of about 300, however many there is, that's going to do it. It's hard. So I think we set a big goal. Just we got to aim for it, and then we break it down into smaller goals. But every day we challenge the players with their own goals. And I mean, when you talk about goals, we had goals not just for soccer, but academics. What was your GPA last semester? What can your GPA this semester be? This is the goal. How are we going to get there? We had goals for recovery. Okay, well, we know some players work and they're getting 6 hours of sleep. So we set a goal of 8 hours of sleep. So there's there's so many goals, and we had them. Some we wrote down, some we didn't write down, and then we just constantly reminded players about it. But the ones we constantly reminded players were about was kind of the smaller ones, because we knew the smaller ones would ultimately get us to the bigger goal. That was long-winded. Sorry about that.
No, that's great. That's great insight. And it is all about setting those daily goals, because they build they're stepping stones to the bigger goals. So
absolutely,
I love seeing that in action. What motivates you to be better, to improve?
I think my own goals are set out there and a bit ludicrous and a bit extreme. But I think my own goals, I know that I can't achieve goals like that unless I'm not self-motivated and want to learn. And I kind of just feel like I'm someone that just wants to continuously get better and seek self-improvement. So that is ultimately a motivator. And honestly, I'm in a profession that I love, that I enjoy. So wanting to get better and wanting to learn, it doesn't feel like a burden. It just feels like something that's natural and something that I want to do. And sometimes I seek information, get better, and motivate myself, even if I don't know it. But I think when you do something you love, and you set goals that you know that you never achieving them goals if you just do what you're doing now.
Do you have any superstitions that you carried on as a player to coaching?
Not as a player. I didn't really have superstitions as a player, honestly. That wasn't me. I just kind of played. I know during this year of coaching, every time we won a game, I'd make sure we did whatever we did on that day. So if we wore something, I was like, everyone's wearing the same again for the next game. I guess that was my coaching superstition. And then obviously when you lose, it's right, everyone wears something different. But playing wise, didn't really have superstitions, but coaching wise, the only superstitions I had was everybody must wear whatever we did. And if we did something before that game, we must do it again.
Superstitions are interesting because they work if you believe in them.
Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of people, it's kind of, I feel as though it's kind of that comfortability. Is that a word? Comfortability? Being comfortable.
Being comfortable.
Yeah. And
we'll make it a word.
Yeah, and kind of getting yourself in a routine, doing something that kind of puts you at ease, takes the stress off a little bit, allows you to focus and think. And I feel like that's why a superstition is why people do it. And then obviously if you do that and you've focused in and you've said, I'm going to put my right sock on before my left sock and concentrate on it, and then you go out and get a win, then it kind of resonates with you and makes it want to stick.
Great. Well, Mitch, I think we're going to wrap up here. This has been a great talk. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I wish you much success in the upcoming seasons, and we'll be in touch with you.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time, and I'll be seeing you in August when RSU come to play MACU.
All right.
So,